Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bastian, and today we want to reassemble this Ford 390 cubic inch engine. For this we have several parts, like the reassembled cylinder heads with new stainless steel racing valves, new valve springs, new valve guides, and machined channels and combustion chambers. We have the high-performance flat-top pistons, the reconditioned and blueprinted connecting rods out of an early 427 cubic inch engine. We have the blueprinted crankshaft with its assembly lube. We've got the piston rings, we've got the main bearings, the connecting rod bearings, we've got the high performance camshaft with new lifters, with new bearings and new push rods. So we have a complete kit of gaskets, the new reconditioned timing cover, the reconditioned water pump, and new painted valve covers. For a good fuel pressure, we've got the electric fuel pump, and for very good ignition, we've got an electronic distributor for memory. So behind, we've got the windage tray and some oil gallery plugs. We've got the oil pump, the starter, the new double roller timing chain, and a Ford Racing aluminium oil pan. These are all parts we need to reassemble this block, and I would say let's start.
Whenever you want to rebuild an engine, you have to work from the center to the outer side of the block. In this case, the camshaft is in the center of the block, and we begin with the camshaft bearings. Before we install the bearings, the bearing seats must be clean. To make sure if all bearings are in the right position, lay in the camshaft and try to turn it. If it turns easily, all is right. If not, you have to clear. When all is right, you can lubricate the bearings with assembly lube, like bearing guard, engine oil, or white grease. The bearing surfaces on the camshaft will be lubricated with assembly lube too. The loops of the camshaft will be lubricated with camshaft assembly lube, like moly grease or anything else. So we have lubricated the bearing surfaces 1 and 2 with assembly lube, and the first 4 loops of the camshaft with assembly lube. When you lay in the camshaft, be very carefully not to damage the bearings with the loops. When the first 4 loops are in the block, you can lubricate the next 4 loops and the next bearing surface with assembly lube. Do this till the camshaft is complete in the block. The next step, what we do, is the installing of the camshaft thrust plate, which holds the camshaft in position. Lubricate it with the assembly lube too, and then you can fasten it on the block. Make sure that you've got the right side. fasten the screw with a screwdriver, and after that you can install the timing sprocket. Second stage, crankshaft assembly. The first thing we do is lay in the bearings of the crankshaft into the block. It's a click system. There's only one way to install the bearings. After that, lubricate them with a little engine oil. After that, you can lay in the crankshaft. It's a very heavy part, but you must be very careful not to damage the counterweights and not to damage the bearings or the bearings surfaces of the crankshaft. Now you can't easily fasten the screws like you want. The bearing clearance must be adjusted. So lay in the main caps with the lower bearing halves installed. At this point we use new fasteners from IRP with moly assembly lube, a set of new U-nuts and a set of 10 new bolts. Lubricate the threads of the bolts with assembly lube. And fasten the main caps with it. The bearing which we want to adjust, the first. Now lay a small plastic gauge on the bearing surface of the crankshaft. And position the bearing main cap. Do it very careful not to damage the plastic gauge and so the later reading, and hand tighten the cap. Torque all main caps to 20 or 30 foot-pounds. When it's done, torque all other main caps to the torque out of the specification, and then the cap which has to be adjusted. Loosen the main cap and read the plastic gauge. If it's not okay, torque the main cap again to a higher torque and check then again. Do this for all other main caps too. When it's okay, escape the crankshaft from the block and lubricate the bearings with assembly lube and install the rear main sealing into its groove. To help the rear main cap to seal, I use a little bit of the RTV sealer. Now you can lubricate the bearing surfaces of the shaft and torque the main caps to the torque you have adjusted.